Welcome to our channel, where history, hidden treasures, and incredible coin finds come to life. Think a penny can't change your life? Think again. Some of the rarest 1-cent coins are worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they might be hiding right in your pocket change. In a time when America was holding its breath during the Cold War, when tensions overseas were mirrored by change at home, 1962 quietly unfolded, a year that wouldn't scream in headlines, but would whisper in copper. The space race was gaining speed. President Kennedy had promised the moon. And deep inside American pockets, purses, and cash registers, a little coin was being passed around with no one suspecting the future it would hold. It was just a penny. A 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny had already become a staple of American life. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, the coin carried the iconic side-profile portrait of one of the most revered figures in U.S. history. It was the first American coin to feature a real person, not a symbol, not a concept, but a man whose legacy shaped the very idea of the Union. Victor David Brenner's design of Lincoln's dignified face had graced the obverse, the front, for over 5 decades. But in 1959, something changed. The U.S. Mint decided to update the reverse of the coin. Gone were the twin wheat stalks of the original design. In their place stood the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity, carved in white marble, now engraved in copper. That's the version we see in the 1962 penny. A coin that looks so familiar, it blends into the background of everyday life, but let's not be fooled. In 1962, that humble penny was the last of its kind in one very significant way: its composition. Up until that point, the 1-cent coin had been made of 95% copper, and 5% a blend of zinc and tin. But the economic reality of the time, rising material costs and global sourcing challenges, forced the U.S. Mint to make a decision. Tin had to go. And by the end of that year, the formula changed. No more tin. Just copper and zinc. This means that 1962 marked the final full year of the traditional bronze alloy. A turning point, and that alone gives this penny historical weight. But wait, there's more. The 1962 D penny, the D standing for Denver, the mint where it was struck, had a massive production run. Over 1.7 billion coins rolled off the presses. That's billion with a B. So how can something so common become so valuable? Because not all coins are created equal. Most of those 1.7 billion pennies have been worn down by time. Circulated through thousands of transactions, scuffed, scratched, and tarnished. Some ended up in fountains. Others in old piggy banks or lost between couch cushions. And many were eventually melted down or discarded, but a few, a rare few, survived untouched, stored away. Forgotten. Or kept safe by collectors who saw something in their luster. These are the coins that command attention. Especially those that have been professionally graded. Now, grading is a process by which coins are examined under magnification, judged for strike, luster, detail, and damage, and assigned a number on a scale from 1 to 70. A score of 70 means the coin is absolutely flawless, not even a single scratch under magnification. Most circulated coins hover in the teens or 20s. But mint state coins, marked with an MS, begin at 60 and go up. MS 65 is considered gem quality. MS 67 or MS 68. That's elite. Nearly perfect, and that's where things get exciting. Some of the 1962 D pennies that have surfaced in recent years have been found in these high mint state grades. Their copper surfaces still shimmer with the red shine of a freshly struck coin. Their edges are sharp. Their fields are clean. Their features, Lincoln's beard, the fine lines of the memorial, appear crisp and untouched. And then there are the errors. Coin collectors love mistakes, because minting errors often mean rarity. Some 1962 D pennies feature double dies, where inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appear slightly offset, like a ghost image. Others are off-center, clipped, or show die cracks. Each of these minting quirks makes the coin more unique, and more desirable. Now, most of these high-quality or error coins might fetch a few hundred. Some, a few thousand. But one, just one, changed the game entirely. It appeared at a major auction, quietly listed among other collectible coins. But sharp-eyed experts knew immediately, this one was different. It had the look, the perfect strike. The deep, rich red copper tone. A near flawless surface. And a rare error to boot, a die variety only seen a handful of times before bidding started. It was modest at first. A few thousand here, a few more there, then it began to climb. 10,000. 20. 35, the room grew still. What started as a coin passed for a soda in 1962 had now become the centerpiece of a bidding war, and finally, the hammer fell. $149,000, for 1 penny. That moment changed how collectors saw the 1962 penny forever, because now, the humble coin had become a legend. Today, people all over the world are checking their change jars, coin rolls, and family keepsakes. Everyone wondering, could I have one? Could there be a treasure hiding in plain sight? And that's the magic of it. A tiny piece of copper. A forgotten cent. A pocket-sized time capsule from a year of change. It reminds us that history lives in the smallest things. Up next, a story that starts not with a bang, but with the quiet clink of a penny dropped into a pocket. It's the sound we've heard our entire lives, so ordinary it vanishes beneath our awareness. But this time, that sound leads to something extraordinary. Something historic. Something potentially worth over $100,000. The year is 1978. The world is moving fast, but quietly uncertain. America is caught in the late wave of post-Vietnam confusion, economic change, and political evolution. The Bee Gees dominate the radio. Star Wars is barely a year old. And while inflation worries the average American, few could have imagined that a single penny minted that year would one day command the attention of collectors around the globe. Minted in the city of Denver, Colorado, the 1978 penny was designed to be just another unit of value, an afterthought, a basic transaction tool, a filler of jars and drawers. No one watched these pennies roll off the minting machines with any expectation that history was being made. But that's the thing about history. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. The coin, at first glance, is unremarkable. It bears the same portrait it had since 1909, Abraham Lincoln, gazing resolutely to the right, his image struck with dignity and reverence. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the profile is one of the most reproduced in U.S. history, engraved into billions of coins, yet never losing its gravitas. By 1978, the reverse of the penny carried Frank Gasparo's rendition of the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced nearly 2 decades earlier. This design added a hidden detail that collectors love, a miniature Lincoln statue, barely visible between the columns, reminding everyone that this wasn't just a building. It was a monument to one of the most transformative leaders in American history. Above it read the familiar United States of America, arched confidently like a banner. Just beneath that, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Below the memorial, 1 cent. Simple. Unassuming. But behind that simplicity lay a transformation. The 1978 penny marked one of the final chapters of an era. It was still made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that would vanish just 4 years later. By 1982, rising material costs forced the U.S. Mint to switch to a cheaper core, mostly zinc, with only a thin copper plating. That change marked the end of an era. The heavy, reddish coins from earlier years would never be made again. And that made every copper penny left behind more special than anyone realized at the time. More than 4.2 billion 1978 pennies were produced, flooding the market and wallets nationwide. And yet, out of all those billions, only a few have managed to survive untouched. That's because the vast majority went straight into circulation. They lived hard lives, clinking in pockets, tumbling in drawers, rubbing against keys, falling onto concrete, getting scuffed, bent, and worn. Time doesn't treat coins kindly when they're in use, but a rare few were spared. A few escaped, some were tucked away in mint sets, sealed tight and forgotten. Others were saved by collectors or passed down in family collections, untouched and protected from oxidation, moisture, and wear. Over time, these coins became rarer, not because of how many were made, but because of how few survived in flawless condition, and that's where things begin to get interesting, because in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything that a grading system developed by numismatists offers a scale from 1 to 70 to assess a coin's condition. Anything below 60 is considered circulated. Above 60, you're in mint state territory. MS 65 is excellent. MS 67 is elite. MS 68 or MS 69. That's near perfection. Only a microscopic number of 1978 D pennies have ever reached MS 68. These coins are virtually untouched, coins that appear, even decades later, as though they were struck this morning, but rarity alone isn't always enough. What elevates a coin to legendary status is the perfect storm of condition, scarcity, and collector demand. Some coins carry intriguing minting errors, double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks. These are the oddities that excite specialists and casual collectors alike. They are mistakes, but beautiful ones. So, imagine now a 1978 D penny. Bright red, with original mint luster shimmering under magnification. Flawless strike, no blemishes, no smudges, no wear. Possibly with a subtle error, a die variety that sets it apart from the others. This is not just a coin anymore. It's an artifact. It's a relic of economic history. It's an art piece pressed in copper, and when one such penny surfaced at auction, it didn't take long for collectors to notice. The buzz built quietly. Then, as the opening bids came in, something changed. What started at a few $100s quickly leapt to thousands. And then to tens of thousands. Phones rang. Eyes widened. And as the gavel rose and fell for the final time, the price stood at a number no one would have dared to imagine: $115,000. It's a powerful reminder that greatness can hide in the smallest places. That something as humble and overlooked as a penny can, under the right circumstances, become a national headline. And it's more than just money. It's about meaning. About preservation. About being part of something that connects generations. Next rare penny, it's easy to walk past a penny. It's even easier to ignore one. Small, lightweight, and worth almost nothing in our modern world, the humble cent has become background noise, something we drop, step over, and forget without a second thought. But every so often, one of these little copper-colored coins hides something remarkable. One such penny, struck in 1983, tells a story that few could have imagined. The 1983 D Lincoln cent stamped at the Denver Mint in Colorado, it was one of billions produced that year. To most people, it was just another penny. Tossed into change jars, slipped into vending machines, or spent on candy. But while most 1983 D pennies lived and died in obscurity, one of them refused to stay ordinary. To understand why, we have to travel back to a time of transition. In the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint was facing a problem. Copper prices were rising, and it had become too expensive to make a penny that cost more than its own face value. For decades, pennies had been made with 95% copper, but that was no longer sustainable. So, in 1982, the Mint made a change. It switched the composition of the 1-cent coin from solid copper to a cheaper alternative, a zinc core with a thin copper coating. This change was subtle on the outside but dramatic on the inside. The new pennies looked nearly identical but weighed less and were made with different materials. From 1983 onward, all pennies were supposed to be made using this new zinc composition, and yet, despite the rules, something slipped through. In a year when not a single penny should have been made with solid copper, one was. Somewhere inside the noisy, high-speed machinery of the Denver Mint, a leftover copper blank from the previous year found its way into the system. It was fed into the press like any other coin, struck with Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, then quietly released into circulation. No one noticed. Not right away, the coin did what all pennies do. It moved from hand to hand, from wallet to counter. But it was different, even if no one realized it at first. Heavier. Older on the inside. A silent holdover from a time that was supposed to be over. Years passed before it was found. A collector, double-checking his old coins, noticed something strange. The color was a little richer. The weight felt off. So, he measured it. 3.11 grams. That was the old copper standard. Not the lighter zinc weight of 2.5 grams. Suspicious and curious, he had the coin examined. And what the tests confirmed left experts stunned that it wasn't a fake, that it wasn't damaged or altered, that it was real, that a genuine 1983 D penny, struck on a copper planchet, that a mistake. A survivor. A 1 in a billion kind of anomaly. In the world of coin collecting, this is what dreams are made of. Not just an error, but a historically timed error. A coin that captures a precise moment between old and new. The fact that it came from the Denver Mint only deepened the mystery. How had a copper blank made it that far, that long, and through the tightly controlled process of a major mint facility? What made it more incredible was its condition. It wasn't just rare, it was clean. Crisp details, no significant wear. The surfaces still gleamed. It hadn't been spent into the ground like so many others. It had somehow survived, preserved by chance or fate. Soon, the coin's legend began to spread. Word got out. Collectors began pulling out old penny jars, weighing coins, examining mint marks, hunting for another one like it. But none emerged with the same characteristics, the same perfect storm of error, timing, and preservation. That's the magic of this coin. It wasn't just a factory defect. It was a fluke of history. A time traveler in your pocket. An object made wrong at exactly the right time. The attention it received was well earned. As the coin circulated through the world of numismatics, it gained a reputation. Not just for being different, but for being nearly perfect in how it broke the rules. Coins like this are more than money. They're evidence of the human element in mechanical systems. Evidence that even in a world of billions, something truly one of a kind can still exist. And then came the auction. For months, the community speculated. What would it go for? Was this a minor error, or a true landmark in minting history? As the day approached, anticipation grew. Collectors waited, watched, prepared. And when the bidding opened, it started high. And kept going, because this wasn't just about metal. It was about rarity. About a story. About a mistake that no one saw coming. And when the gavel finally dropped, a silence swept over the room. The final price, $106,000. That's right. A penny, worth 1 cent when it was made, sold for $106,000. All because of a hidden detail, a forgotten blank, and a twist of timing that made all the difference. It's a reminder to us all that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we overlook. That even the smallest, most ordinary objects can hold hidden worth. That value isn't always about what something looks like. It's about what it represents. So next time you find a penny, don't be so quick to pass it by. It might be just another coin. Or it might be something else entirely. The next rare penny could be in your hand right now. In 2005, the world was a different place, full of change, technology, and shifting political landscapes. The digital age was beginning to dominate daily life, and in the United States, the economy was riding on the success of a decade-long expansion. But, in the world of coinage, something unexpected was brewing that would take many by surprise in the years to come. This story begins with a coin that many might have casually overlooked. The 2005 U.S. 1-cent piece, a penny that, like many pennies before it, was struck with Abraham Lincoln's likeness on the front, and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It wasn't particularly rare, and in 2005, most people didn't give it a second thought. Little did anyone know, this specific penny would come to hold an astonishing story of rarity, error, and, ultimately, a price tag that would stun the numismatic world. To understand the significance of the 2005 no-mint mark penny, we must first understand what happened at the U.S. Mint in 2005. For decades, pennies had been made with a specific mint mark to indicate where they were struck, either the D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. But in 2005, a series of coins were struck without any mint mark, a detail that went unnoticed by most, but not by collectors and those with a keen eye for such things. It was a small change, but one that would cause waves in the world of coin collecting. 2005 was a transitional year for U.S. coinage. That year, the Mint was focusing on modernizing and enhancing the designs of various coins, including the penny. The U.S. Mint had started experimenting with new designs, including the famous Lincoln Bicentennial series of pennies, which would later make their debut in 2009. But 2005 was still a year of change, and with that change came an error that no one expected. For the first time in more than 150 years, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia had made a small but significant error in the penny's production. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia carried the P mint mark to indicate their origin, while those made in Denver carried a D. But in 2005, some of these pennies came out of the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark at all. The result was that these coins, though identical in size, weight, and appearance to their marked counterparts, were now rarer than expected. With no mint mark to distinguish them from the billions of other pennies produced that year, these coins quickly became one of the most sought-after errors in numismatics. They were unmarked, a feature that collectors would come to appreciate over time, even though they were mostly overlooked at the time of their release. The mystery behind these no mint mark pennies would become a topic of conversation in numismatic circles. Experts debated whether this was a manufacturing oversight or a more deliberate mistake. Some speculated that it might have been an intentional move by the mint to experiment with coin production, while others believed it was an unfortunate mistake made during the minting process. Whatever the reason behind the absence of the mint mark, the result was clear. A coin that seemed ordinary at first glance had now become a hidden gem in the world of coin collecting. As time passed, collectors began to search for these elusive 2005 no mint mark pennies. The challenge was finding one that had been preserved in good condition, as most pennies are often handled and worn down during circulation. These coins, struck without the mint mark, became a rare find. Collectors who had the foresight to hold on to their pennies were now sitting on a treasure. But the true rarity of the coin came when it was discovered that the no mint mark variety was not just a casual error, it was a serious one that made the coin truly unique in the history of U.S. minting. By 2010, news of the 2005 no mint mark penny began to spread, and collectors were scrambling to get their hands on one. Coin dealers and auction houses saw the sudden demand for these particular pennies, and soon the value of the 2005 no mint mark penny started to rise. What was once seen as a simple mistake was now viewed as a coveted collector's item, and the prices for well-preserved coins began to climb. The market for rare U.S. coins was heating up, and as it did, the 2005 no mint mark penny became one of the most sought-after examples of an error coin in recent history. Coins that were once considered to be worth little more than their face value were now commanding hundreds, even thousands, of dollars at auctions and dealer sales. And as collectors started to realize the true value of this rare penny, the hunt was on. The 2005 no mint mark penny wasn't just a curiosity, it was a symbol of how something as small and seemingly insignificant as a missing mint mark could elevate an ordinary coin to the status of a numismatic treasure. The absence of a mint mark, which initially appeared as a minor mistake, had turned into a significant rarity. In the world of coin collecting, rarity and uniqueness are everything, and this penny had both. So, what is the value of a 2005 no mint mark penny today? After years of increasing demand, expert appraisals, and competitive bidding, the 2005 no mint mark penny has reached astonishing heights in the numismatic market. Coins in mint condition, especially those with no wear or signs of circulation, can now fetch up to $28,000 or more at auctions, depending on their grade and overall quality. A penny that once spent time in change jars and beneath the sofa cushions is now considered an elite collector's item. So, if you happen to have a 2005 penny lying around, it might just be worth more than you think. Take a moment to inspect it. Is there a mint mark on the coin? If not, you might be holding a rare piece of numismatic history worth a small fortune. After all, sometimes the most extraordinary treasures come in the most unexpected forms. The next time you see a penny, remember, it could be worth far more than a cent. The 2014 1-cent penny, no mint mark, might seem like just another penny at first glance, but there's a much deeper story hidden within this small, seemingly insignificant coin. While most people would never give a second thought to a penny that has no special design or outstanding features, this particular 2014 penny has become one of the most intriguing and rare discoveries in the world of coin collecting. Let's rewind to 2014. The U.S. Mint had been producing pennies for over a century, and by this time, the design had become somewhat of a staple in American coinage. For decades, pennies had featured the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, with only minor changes in detail. The mint marks, either P for Philadelphia or D for Denver, were also standard on these coins, helping collectors track their origin and better understand the coin's rarity. But in 2014, something happened that threw a wrench into this predictable pattern. A small batch of pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint was released without any mint mark, breaking with tradition. Normally, pennies minted at Philadelphia are marked with the letter P on the reverse, just beneath the Lincoln Memorial. The Denver minted pennies, on the other hand, bear the letter D. But the 2014 pennies with no mint mark were something entirely unexpected, something that most collectors didn't realize was significant until much later. At first, no one really noticed the error. To most people, it was just another penny, part of the vast sea of small change circulating through the economy. But as time went on, sharp-eyed collectors began to notice something was off with a few 2014 pennies they came across. These coins, which seemed to be ordinary pennies at first glance, were lacking the mint mark, a feature that had become essential in tracking the coin's origin. It wasn't until some of these rare pieces started turning up in coin collections and dealers' inventories that people realized just how valuable they could be. But why was the missing mint mark such a big deal? In the world of numismatics, mint marks are more than just decorative, they help establish the coin's rarity and production history. The fact that some 2014 pennies were struck without a mint mark made them unusual, especially since Philadelphia had been producing coins with the P mint mark for years. This error essentially created a coin that was different from every other penny in circulation, an anomaly that set it apart in the eyes of collectors. This error sparked a wave of excitement in the numismatic community. Coin collectors and enthusiasts immediately recognized that this was no ordinary penny. It was a rare mistake that would likely become a coveted item in years to come. Coins that deviate from the standard, whether due to manufacturing errors or unusual features, always catch the attention of collectors. The more elusive the coin, the higher the demand for it. And as the 2014 no mint mark penny became known for its rarity, its value quickly began to rise. The real appeal of these coins lies in their story, an era that produced a coin so rare that it would eventually become highly sought after. Unlike most errors, which might be dismissed as simple mistakes, the 2014 no mint mark penny held a certain mystique. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a piece of U.S. mint history, a coin produced in an unexpected way at a time when few people were paying attention. In the world of coin collecting, it's the rare and unusual pieces that often hold the most value. And this penny was no exception. So, what made these coins so special? For one, the number of unmarked pennies struck that year was relatively small. Given the millions of coins produced annually, the fact that a small handful of them came out without a mint mark immediately raised the rarity of the piece. This anomaly made the 2014 no mint mark penny particularly interesting to collectors, who saw it as an opportunity to add a unique coin to their collections. While it's true that not all 2014 pennies without a mint mark are in perfect condition, the ones that are well preserved are particularly valuable. Most pennies are frequently circulated and often show signs of wear, scratches, or discoloration. But when a coin like this one remains in excellent condition, free from damage or corrosion, its value increases exponentially. Mint condition coins, especially those with error features like the 2014 no mint mark penny, are considered a goldmine for collectors looking for something rare and unique. Over time, the hunt for the 2014 no mint mark penny became more intense. Collectors scoured their change jars, visited local coin shops, and pored over auctions in search of this elusive coin. As more collectors realized how valuable these pennies could be, the price began to rise steadily. Coin dealers saw the demand for this rare penny and began pricing them higher, hoping to cash in on the growing interest. As the years went by, the 2014 no mint mark penny became a sought-after relic in the world of coin collecting. The rarity of the coin was undeniable, and with the growing demand for error coins, prices began to climb. Coins that were once worth just 1 cent could now fetch significantly more, depending on their condition. The more pristine the coin, the more it could fetch at auctions and coin shows. This is what drives many collectors to seek out rare and error coins. They're not just collecting a piece of currency, they're collecting a piece of history, the value of the 2014 no-mint mark penny has continued to rise, with well-preserved examples fetching anywhere between $17,000 to $20,000, depending on their condition and market demand. For those who manage to hold on to these coins in mint condition, the payoff has been substantial. What was once just a coin worth 1 cent is now worth thousands, and that's the allure of numismatics. Coins, like the 2014 no-mint mark penny, can transform from everyday currency into valuable treasures. Now, you might be wondering, how can something so small and seemingly insignificant fetch such a high price? It's all about rarity, condition, and the allure of a good story. When collectors get wind of a coin with a unique feature, like the missing mint mark, the rush to acquire it begins. What seemed like a tiny mistake in production turned into a treasure hunt for numismatists.